Welcome to Global Media Network. Passionate World Talk Radio is a wholly owned subsidiary of GMN LLC. Our motto is always educate, enlighten, entertain. And today we have two special guests, Abigail Baye and Tanya Perel from the organization they created and operate called She's Somebody's Daughter. And as you guessed, yes, it has to do with sexual exploitation of women and girls and all the great things that go with it. So ladies, please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm the creative director of She's Somebody's Daughter. I work to get She's Somebody's Daughter out into the public and to help teach the public about the pitfalls of trafficking and exploitation and make it in such a way that is more communicative, that people can understand and kind of reflect on.
Tanya?
So Sharon, as my name is Tanya, I serve as the Director of Impact. I've been here since the fall of 2018, and I do fundraising as well as a lot of the awareness, education, and training. So lots of public speaking out in the community.
Oh, got a lot of practice. So what inspired you to, especially you, Abby, to create a nonprofit like this?
Well, we didn't actually create it. This has been around for about 10 years. And it's, Tanya, do you want to fill Lillian in on the beginnings?
Yeah. Oh, sure. So we started in 2012 as an awareness initiative. Our founder, who is no longer with the organization, wanted to help educate the public on the links between pornography, the commercial sex industry, and sex trafficking. And so she started doing awareness education with some billboards and a website. And it has grown from there. And so from there came outreach into areas where exploitation took place. But yeah, she just felt a heart to educate the public on the links between those three different things.
And she should. So what kind of signs do people need to look out for, especially parents? We've had a lot of abductions when I was living in Michigan. Ann Arbor wasn't too bad, but their main city, Detroit, was terrible. And it's the cities in which a lot of this is going on underneath people's noses because they don't recognize the signs. So could you give an example of some of the signs that a person who's observant?
Sure, I would say some of the things you said are correct, but a lot of people are surprised to find, especially in the US, the majority of those that are trafficked, about 95 to 97% are trafficked by actually someone they know and trust. Only about 3% in the US are abductions. Now, are there abductions? Absolutely. Are there abductions for a variety of reasons? Yes. But what we want to help communities and people understand is that trafficking is taking place anywhere that there are people. So not just big cities, but even in our own small rural communities, trafficking is happening here because it's being done by someone that they know and trust. And it's often a grooming process. And that can often happen online. And so what we do is educate parents on youth as to what it looks like to be safe on the internet, to recognize those signs of grooming, things like love bombing, building trust, isolating them from parents and support systems. So things for parents to be aware of within their children's lives. Again, in and of itself, just one of these things, not necessarily, but when you start to look at them together, but often an older boyfriend and a younger girl, things like having money or the newest iPhone or shoes or expensive purses, and they don't really have a job or something that can provide the income to pay for those things. Just evidence of isolation and being controlled can also be. So, you have this boyfriend who is really wanting to spend all of his time with his girlfriend, and so parents aren't seeing her very often. So those types of things are often beginning signs that parents can be aware of and what they can be looking for.
So they definitely prey then on women and girls who feel unloved, maybe abandoned, have been abused at home, runaways on the street who feel like they're safer on the street than they are at home. It sounds like it could be a cult. during the 70s and
Mhm.
late 60s, the
Mhm.
Hare Krishnas. That's exactly how
Mhm.
they snared young
Mhm.
boys and girls into their
Mhm.
temples by offering them sweet
Hmm.
things, bringing them in where they didn't sleep for 2 or 3 nights, and then they started
Hmm.
breaking them down and brainwashing them.
Hmm.
So I suspect
Yeah.
that's the same tactics.
What they try to do, what traffickers try to do is to figure out what you're lacking in your life. So it could
Mhm.
be you are homeless and you need a couch to
Mhm.
sleep on. It could be that you are feeling lonely, that maybe you
Mhm.
aren't getting the love that you need at home, or you just don't feel like you have a place in society. And so
Mhm.
what the traffickers do is come in and look at those vulnerabilities and then give the person
Mhm.
exactly that what they need, and
Mhm.
then they start to chip away at you psychologically and start using
Mhm.
love bombing, and then the abuse starts to come in. So they
Mhm.
definitely do look at what your specific vulnerabilities are, and they're
Mhm.
very good at this,
Mhm.
so that they can capitalize on that.
Would you consider the love scammers that everybody is on Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and the social media, where women specifically are being picked up by guys who have the same MO every time you speak to them, and they do the same thing that way as well? Are they part and parcel of the pornography and the trafficking that's going on?
If you're talking about like sugaring, like sugar daddies, things like
Yes.
that,
Yes.
yeah, yes, yeah, that
Mhm.
can sometimes lead to exactly trafficking. And it's important to remember that people
Mhm.
can be trafficked while never leaving their home at all through the internet. And so what
Mhm.
they come in is they
Mhm.
come in and
Mhm.
promise all of these things, all of this money to especially college
Mhm.
students. And they sound wonderful and they sound great, but the fact of the matter is that they're the ones who hold the money, so they control you. And if you start sending pictures of them, they control you even more through those pictures, things like that.
So,
Yeah.
has it become, especially during the pandemic, where young girls, and I'm sure women too, have posted pictures or have taken pictures of themselves and their private parts in order to share with these guys? Is there any way that parents can talk to their kids?
We
That's a
we
question,
have definitely
ladies.
seen a shift to the online. It was happening yeah, it was happening even before the pandemic, but what we saw was the pandemic really pushed things online, and so camming, so either videos or pictures, things that we saw turning to that, um, make a living and to have money to support themselves and their family. So for parents, being aware of that as well, yes, because what often happens, girls are hearing about all this money that gets made each month by women who are doing this, and they think, oh, I can just post some pictures of myself in a bathing suit or whatever the case may be, and that might work for a little bit, but unfortunately that's not going to last for very long, and it becomes then more and more needs to be done and stripped away in order for them to make money. What we're also finding is that pimps and traffickers are on those sites. And so they're seeing these individuals who are struggling maybe to make a lot of money. And so they'll approach them and say, hey, let me help you, let me take over your marketing, let me do these things. And then that becomes a trafficking situation. And so again, like Abby said, they've never even left their home. So for parents having conversations with their kids as far as what they post online, um, is out there. Even when you think you've deleted something, there's a digital footprint that is left behind. There are screenshots, there are things that can be dug up. And so for parents to engage with their children is so important. Talking with them about the internet and what they're posting, why they're posting the things they're doing, why do they enjoy the apps that they're on. But we really, the biggest thing that we preach to parents is engagement. Engage with your children and have conversations.
Now, do you have safe houses to suggest to parents? Should they be able to excruciate their kids from getting, even after they get involved? Does your organization help these kids and women reacclimate to going back into normal society again?
So our focus as far as those that have been trafficked is on those over the age of 18. Under 18, we do internet safety and prevention and things like that. As far as supporting individuals affected, we we do with those over 18. We do have connections with safe homes, a variety of them. We don't have a home, but we have connections with safe homes. So if that is something that they are seeking, we will get them connected with that. We want to be very victim and survivor centered and focused. So whatever it is that they're deciding that they need, very often in these situations, it takes a little while for individuals to even recognize or acknowledge that they were being trafficked, because it is usually someone that they trust, like a significant other. They don't view it that way. And that mental coercion that Abby talked about can be so strong that they need to unwind that. But yes, there are connections with homes if that is what they are seeking at that point.
It reminds me when kids were getting indoctrinated into a lot of the cults again during the late 60s, 70s, and the parents had to kidnap their kids to get out of those cults and then put them into a safe house and then bring in a psychologist and a psychiatrist to talk with these kids to really bring them back. And some of them went back because they felt safer where they were already loved and accepted as compared to coming back to mainstream society.
And that happens, generally speaking, even for abused women, it takes average 7 times of trying to leave before you can actually leave. And so it's true with trafficking and abusive marriages, things like that.
So that's very difficult. We had a guest on, lest we forget, last week, a Dr. Tracy Kemble, who wrote a book about a dictionary of narcissistic behavior. And I suspect that that also has a lot to do with ladies who have been in abusive relationships where their self-worth has been taken from them and it's hard for them to reclaim it back.
Yes.
So what do you see in terms of success rates with either working with parents or working with kids over 18? Because despite the fact the child is 18, they're still a child. They're not, quote, an adult.
This is true. And we obviously know the brain isn't fully developed. So I think it keeps getting later and later. Is it mid to late 20s now? And also we know how trauma affects the brain and how it can put people right back to that childhood. And it just affects the brain development. But as far as success, and we get asked this a lot, and people determine success in different ways. So people outside of our organization often want to hear how many women have left these relationships in these situations. And while, yes, that has happened, like Abby mentioned, there is also often a lot of back and forth. So leaving and returning and leaving, returning before they're completely out of it. So to give you a specific on success rate, I couldn't say we've had, X amount of women who have left these relationships. We have women who have left, but what we also need to understand is when they leave, that's the very start of that journey for them, not the end, because there's so much healing that comes. But for us, as far as success, what we often consider success is when we meet a woman through our outreach locations, and they actually reach out to us to connect with us or to receive support or whatever the case may be. That's a success for us. Our vision is to build communities of love and hope that honor women. So that's kind of what we point back to for our success rate, is when we have women who have reached out to us and we're able to welcome them into that community and that support system. That's a success. And with that, I would say we have over 100 women that have become part of that community, whether they're still in the industry or out, but are part of that community. And so that would be what we would consider success.
That's great. Now, I don't know if you get asked about this, but do you have a lot of transgender ladies coming in that have been bought and sold on the open market?
At this point, I don't know that I could point to any that we would have. That's a huge vulnerability. We get asked, we talked about the vulnerabilities and we reference Maslow's hierarchy of needs like Abby did, but there are certain demographics that are much more vulnerable. People of color, huge vulnerability. Undocumented individuals, huge vulnerability. LGBTQIA plus community, obviously huge vulnerability. And so even though our organization's name is She's Somebody's Daughter, we are going to support anybody, male, female, non-binary, whoever. If they are in need of support, we are going to do our best to support them as we are able. So yes.
Terrific. So where can people online find the organization, and how can they contact either one of you if they have questions that I haven't asked, so that they can be forewarned and forearmed.
Mm-hmm.
We have she's somebody's daughter.org. And then we are also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and LinkedIn now.
Yes.
And she's somebody's daughter. Mm-hmm.
Is there an email they can reach you at?
Sure. You can reach me at Tanya. It's TANYA at she's somebody's daughter.org.
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
I am Abby at she's somebody's daughter.org.
Terrific. Do you have any final words or words of wisdom you want to pass along?
Abby, I'll let you go first. Do you have anything?
Oh, goodness. The one thing that we've talked about often with separate groups is that when you post on the internet, when you post every struggle that you have on the internet, understand that that is out there for a wide audience, and not everybody on your friends list is your friend, and they can use what you post as a vulnerability to try and entrap you. So be careful what you post. Don't post everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tanya?
And I just going back again, parents engage. Know what your children are doing online, who they're talking to. And for us, for all adults, making sure that we're being that support system and reaching out to those who maybe seem like they're on the margins a little bit. How can we eliminate those margins and just be a connection with them? And if you are looking to learn more, would like training, education, we're here. We'd love to be able to provide that.
Terrific. I'll leave you with one more thought, that maybe the government should get involved with human trafficking, since it is $1 billion business, especially when you start adding the drug cartels into the mix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something for you ladies to think about in case you want to do something extra in your spare time. I want to thank my listeners for coming and joining us this morning with Abigail and with Tanya. And please, this will be all over the internet on our usual social media, youtube.com/pwrnetworkllc, _ PW Talk Radio, on the website, https://passionateworldtalkradio.com, facebook.com/passionateworldradio, Twitter @passionateworldradio, and 15 other directories. Please go over and read the blog. It should be up by next week, which will give you all the information, plus a link to YouTube to see the video again and also to hear the audio. We want to thank both Abigail and Tanya for coming in and sharing their information and advice about sexual exploitation of both women and girls, and hope that you take this information and follow it away. If you have a niece or a daughter or a granddaughter, this is a good Christmas present or birthday present. Can't emphasize that enough. Thank you, ladies, very much for joining us. And remember, audience, please keep listening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.